Welcome back to The Second Perspective. Today we are going to show you why the NNT and NNH are absolutely critical for proving whether the benefits of a pharmaceutical product outweigh its risks. Now we know you're wondering what these terms even mean, so think of it this way. Once upon a time, doctors used to think that old people should take aspirin to prevent their first heart attack. Then this study came out showing the number needed to treat, also known as NNT, is 241, while the number needed to harm, also known as NNH, is 210. This means that if you give aspirin to 241 people, it will prevent a heart attack in one person, just one. The other 240 do not benefit. On the other hand, if you give it to 210 people, 209 will be just fine. But one unlucky fellow will suffer a severe adverse event, such as a major brain bleed. We can state the same thing in another way. Aspirin taken on a daily basis has a 0.4% chance of preventing a heart attack in the elderly. It also has a 0.5% chance of causing a major bleed, so the odds of being seriously harmed is nearly identical to that of benefiting. For this reason, the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force decided that aspirin simply wasn't worth it. However, consider the cost-benefit analysis if the NNT was lower, let's say 10, and the NNH was higher, say 2,000. In that case, aspirin would have a 10% chance of preventing a heart attack in the elderly and a 0.05% chance of causing a major bleed. Comparing the two, we would now say that aspirin is 200 times more likely to prevent a heart attack than it is to cause a serious adverse event. This scenario makes a stronger case for aspirin and leaves us with two learning points. First, we want the NNT to be low, as close to 1 as possible. Second, we want the NNH to be as high as possible and at least higher than the NNT. Now with that in mind, let's have a look at the COVID shots. In August of 2022, a prestigious journal called Vaccine published the NNH for both the Pfizer and Moderna injections. Now, just to be clear, the NNH is here concerned with serious adverse events that are defined as either death, life-threatening illness, hospitalization, or significant disability. This peer-reviewed study found that at minimum, there were 10 serious adverse events for every 10,000 people injected. That translates to an NNH of 1,000. Now keep in mind, this number is based on the pharmaceutical company's own phase 3 trials, so you can decide for yourself whether this number is over or underestimated. But now the big question. How many people must get injected in order to prevent one of them from getting a COVID so severe that he ends up in the intensive care unit? Rather than number needed to treat, this is called number needed to vaccinate, or NNV for short. Luckily, the UK Health Security Agency decided to make this number public just last week. Their document can be accessed through this link, which you can also find in the description. For reassurance, the severe COVID being prevented here is indeed defined as that which was bad enough to require intensive care. Also note that since they looked specifically at July 2022, these numbers relate to Omicron. Now for the critical section, which we find in Table 4, broken up by age bracket. Here we find that the group with the lowest NNV, and thus the most likely to benefit, are those over age 70. Yet even then, you need to inject 2,500 to save one from severe COVID. And for those in their 20s, you need to inject 166,000 to keep one out of the ICU. Interestingly, and we do mean very, very interestingly, the NNV isn't any lower with a third dose. Meanwhile, let's not forget that just 1,000 need to be injected in order to seriously harm one person. Since for obvious reasons, we cannot explicitly state what this implies, we'll instead encourage you to compare the benefit and risk for yourself. And as you enthusiastically punch away at your calculator, we'll innocently transition to the outro by way of a completely unrelated movie clip.
You've got to ask yourself a question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
If you enjoyed this content, be sure to subscribe and visit our channel for more videos on The Second Perspective.